This is Art Television.
Coming up, State of Business, sponsored by
UHD quality video streaming, internet like a boss, SLT Mobitel Fiber,
IWS Aviation.
Meet your work and learn targets. Get 30 GB Meet Lite for just 195 rupees and 100 GB Meet Max for 490 rupees. Log on to My SLT app to activate. SLT Mobitel.
A very good evening and a warm welcome to State of Business on Art Television. I'm Ashine Ali and let's have a look at the headlines first. Government introduces long-term visas for foreigners. The World Bank reports increase in Sri Lankan poverty. News in detail. Government introduces the Golden Paradise Visa program, enabling issuance of long-term resident visas for foreigners who buy apartments or deposit over $100,000 in the commercial banks. The newly appointed Media Minister, Dr. Lanka told media personnel this morning that visas of between 5 and 10 years would be issued based on apartments and investments in the three categories: $75,000, $150,000 and $200,000.
මේ මහල් නිවාස සඳහා විදේශ මුදල් විදේශ ආයෝජන ඇද ගැනීම සඳහා අද ඊයේ කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයෙන් තීන්දුව කරා ඇමරිකානු ඩොලර් 75000 සිට ඉහළට 75000 1,50,000 දක්වා කොටස් තුනකට කඩලා සහාධිපත්‍ය නිවාස මිලදී ගන්නා විදේශිකයන් සඳහා වසර 5 සිට 10 දක්වා දීර්ඝකාලීන වීසා නිකුත් කිරීමට ඒක පළවෙනි තීන්දුව. දෙවෙනි එක තමයි අපිට යම්කිසි විදේශිකයෙකුට ලංකාවට ඇවිල්ලා ලංකාවේ ඇමරිකානු ඩොලර් ලක්ෂයක් තැන්පත් කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඒ තැන්පත් කරන අයටත් අවුරුදු 10ක වාස වීසා ලබා දෙන්නට ඊයේ කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේදී තීන්දුව කරා. මම හිතනවා මේකත් මේ වෙලාවේ අපේ රටේ තියෙන විශාල ඩොලර් අර්බුදයටත් යම්කිසි ආකාරයක සහනයක් වේවිය කියලා.
Media Minister Dr. Lanka also commented on the statement by the Chinese ambassador Ki Zhenghong on Sri Lanka's discussions with the IMF for a debt restructuring mechanism. The Chinese envoy yesterday at a media briefing, Colombo, said that they are closely monitoring the current discussions between Sri Lanka and IMF.
මේ රටේ දැනට තියෙන විදේශ සංචිත ඌනතාව නිසා දැනට තිබෙන ණය ප්‍රතිව්‍යුහගත කිරීමේ අවශ්‍යතාවකුත් තිබෙනවා. අපි දැනටම දැනුම් දීලා තියෙනවා අපේ ණය හිමියන්ට අපිට ණය ගෙවීමේ හැකියාවක් නැහැ කියලා. ඒ ණය ප්‍රතිව්‍යුහගත කිරීම ගැන කතා කරන විට අපි දන්නවා අපිට ණය දෙන කඳවුරු කිහිපයක් තිබෙනවා. එකක් තමයි බටහිර, ඒක අනිත් චීනය වගේ රටවල්. ඒතර බටහිර රටවල් බොහෝ දුරට මේ IMF එකෙන් අපිට දැන් ලැබිලා තියෙන අනුමැතියත් සමග මේ කාරණයට සාධනීය ලෙස සහාය දනට ඉඩ තිබුණත් චීනයේ දැනට දක්වන ස්ථාවරය තමයි ඔවුන් ලෝකේ පුරාම විවිධ රටවලට ණය දීලා තිබෙන නිසා එක රටකට පමණක් ඒ ආකාරයට ණය ප්‍රතිව්‍යුහගත කරන්නට ගියොත් ඒක ඔවුන්ගේ අනෙක් රටවලටත් බලපානවාය කියලා. ඒ නිසා ඔවුන් ඒ වෙනුවට යෝජනා කරලා තිබෙනවා ණය ප්‍රතිව්‍යුහගත කරනවා වෙනුවට අපේ දැනට තිබෙන ණය ගෙවීම සඳහා තවත් ණයක් දෙන්නට සූදානම් කියලා. ඉතින් මේක මූලික සාකච්ඡා මට්ටමේ තිබෙන්නේ. මම හිතන්නේ මුදල් ඇමතිතුමා මේ පිළිබඳව සවිස්තරාත්මකව ඉදිරියේදී පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට කරුණු පැහැදිලි කිරීමට නියමිතයි. ඒ වන විට අපිට සත්‍ය තොරතුරු ලබා ගන්න පුළුවන්.
The World Bank report on macro poverty outlook shows that Sri Lanka faces unsustainable debt and significant balance of payment challenges. It adds that the economic outlook is highly uncertain due to fiscal and external imbalances. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the economy contracted 3.6% in 2020, raising the poverty rate to 11.7%. Fiscal deficit widened and public debt increased due to tax cuts. Foreign exchange earnings declined and international sovereign bond repayments came due. Fiscal and external risks led to sovereign credit rating downgrades, preventing market-based refinancing. The World Bank highlights that Sri Lanka's macroeconomic challenges are linked to years of high fiscal deficits, driven primarily by low revenue collection and erosion of export competitiveness due to our restrictive trade regime and weak investment climate. Growth slowed to an average 3.1% between 2017 and 2019 from the 6.2% between 2010 and 2016 as a peace dividend and a policy thrust towards reconstruction faded away and macroeconomic shocks adversely impacted growth. Structural adjustments are needed to restore debt sustainability, significantly increase revenue collection and to improve the investment climate, restore competition and support reforms to improve productivity in agriculture. Public investments and future borrowings should prioritize key sectors and address immediate needs and induce sustainable and resilient growth through economic transformation. The World Bank holds that Sri Lanka needs to address the structural sources of its vulnerabilities. This requires reducing fiscal deficits by strengthening domestic revenue mobilization. Fiscal consolidation will need tighter monetary policy to contain pressures on inflation. Sri Lanka also needs to find feasible options to restore debt sustainability. The financial sector needs to be carefully monitored amid high exposure to the public sector and the impact of the recent currency depreciation on banks' balance sheets. The necessary adjustments may adversely affect growth and impact poverty initially, but will correct the significant imbalances, subsequently providing the foundation for stronger and sustainable growth and access to international financial markets. However, the World Bank maintains that mitigating the impacts on the poor and vulnerable would remain critical. Stay tuned for more news right after this commercial break.
Meet your work and learn targets. Get 30 GB Meet Lite for just 195 rupees and 100 GB Meet Max for 490 rupees. Log on to my SLT app to activate. SLT Mobitel.
Welcome back after the break. High investment and liquidity risk pressure on regulatory capital positions and a likely worsening in financial performance have increased the near-term downside risk to Sri Lankan insurers' credit profiles, says Fitch Ratings. Fitch recently placed the national ratings of all of its rated Sri Lankan insurers on Rating Watch Negative. The recent negative rating actions on the Sri Lanka sovereign and various financial institutions underscore the risks to domestic insurers whose investment portfolios are dominated by fixed income securities issued or guaranteed by the government and deposits and securities issued by local banks, non-bank financial institutions and corporations. Fitch downgraded Sri Lanka's sovereign rating to C from CC and had placed the ratings of several financial institutions on Rating Watch Negative. Some insurers also have foreign currency exposure via investment in Sri Lanka development bonds and deposits with local banks. Fitch holds that the weak foreign currency liquidity in the local banking system could limit insurers' ability to meet foreign currency obligations. This includes premium payments to foreign reinsurance and other costs that are typically sourced from overseas. Foreign currency denominated insurance contract obligations vary by insurer but tend to be small and limited to certain and non-motor classes. Fitch-rated insurers do not have any local or foreign currency denominated debt in their capital structures. Fitch believes the recent 5-day closure of the Colombo Stock Exchange undermines the liquidity of listed investments, especially if such closures occur frequently. Most Fitch-rated insurers have little to no exposure to listed equities in their investment portfolios. Fitch expects a weak operating environment to affect insurers' earnings. Growth in motor insurance, the largest contributor to non-life premiums for most insurers, is likely to remain subdued as Fitch expects the government's ban on auto imports imposed in 2020 to control currency depreciation to continue. In addition, underwriting profits will be squeezed by rising motor spare part costs due to currency devaluation, while overall costs will climb with rising inflation. The underwriting profitability of most Fitch-rated insurers have improved on lower claims frequency due to pandemic-related movement restrictions. Sri Lankan non-life insurers rely on international reinsurance to mitigate risks in their non-motor businesses. Fitch thinks any material changes to reinsurance structures upon renewal amid rising reinsurance costs could undermine insurers' risk management practices and ability to write new business. JVP leader Anura Dissanayake at a press briefing today stressed that it is the responsibility of the government to provide its people with at least their basic needs. Parliamentarian Disanayake citing the people's demand for new leadership and the current administration's reluctance to relinquish power says the JVP has organised widespread protests and union action on the 28th of April.
ජනතාවගේ බලය ජනතාවගේ හයිය මේ වෙලාව උපයෝග කරගත යුතුයි. ඒ විතරක් නෙවෙයි. අනතුරුව ජනතාවට නව ජනවරමක් කරා නව පාලනයක් ලබා ගැනීම සඳහා අවස්ථාව ලබා දී යුතුයි. මොකද ඔවුන් කියනවා ඔවුන්ට ජනවරම තිබෙනවා. ඔවුන්ට කැමැත්ත ලබා දී තිබෙනවා. ඔවුන්ට ඡන්ද ලබා දී තිබෙනවා. ඔවුන්ට 69 ලක්ෂයක් ඉන්නවා. ඒවා අතීතයේ එනම් වහම වර්තමාන ජනතාවට තිබෙන ජනවරම මන බැලිය යුතුයි. අද ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂතුගේ පවුල යම් මැතිවරණ තරඟ වදින්නේ නම් ඔවුන්ට හිතා ගන්න පුළුවන් ඔවුන්ට ජනතාවගේ ජනවරමේ කොච්චර අංශු මාත්‍රද ඉතුරු වී තිබෙන්නේ කියලා. ඒ නිසා එහෙනම් කළ යුතු වන්නේ ජනවරමක් ලබාගෙන නව පාලනයක් ගොඩනගා ගැනීම සඳහා ජනතාවට අවස්ථාව ලබා දීම. ඒ සඳහා අපි ඉදිරිදී ක්‍රියාමාර්ග තෝරන්න ලෑස්ති. මොකද මේ පාලකයන් තේරුම් ගන්න ඕන බලයේ තියෙන බංකරය ඇතුළේ නෙවෙයි බංකරයේ තියෙන බලයේ තියෙන හමුදාවල ඇතුළේ නෙවෙයි බලයේ තියෙන ජනතාවතේ. ඒ නිසා ජනතාව තමන්ගේ පරමාධිපත්‍ය බලය ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීම සඳහා අවශ්‍ය වෙන නේද ජනවරමක් සඳහා නව ජනවරමකින් ආණ්ඩුව පිටවීම සඳහා අවස්ථාව ගොඩනැගිය යුතුයි. ඒ ක්‍රියාමාර්ග දෙකේම ජනතා විමුක්ති පෙරමුණත් අපේ ජාතික ජනබල වේගයත් අපේ වෘසමිති ව්‍යාපාරයත් අපේ ගොවි ව්‍යාපාරත් අපේ තරුණ ව්‍යාපාරත් මේ සියල්ල එකට අපි ඉදිරියේදී විශාල උද්ඝෝෂණ බලපෑම් විරෝධතා රැලි විශාල ප්‍රමාණයක් අපි සූදානම් කරලා තිබෙනවා.
The Colombo stock market closed after one of the indices plunged over 10% after it was halted twice on concerns over a 7% rate hike. The SPI was down 629.84 points to 6,884.01, with total trading lasting less than 5 minutes for the day. The most liquid index S&P SL20 also fell over 10% where the market closed for the day. Total turnover was nearly 800 million rupees, with many investors trying to minimize losses as they expect further falls. Trading was halted twice as the indices breached the 5% and 7.5% fall circuit breakers. The stock exchange was forced to close the market with less than 5 minutes of total trading on Monday as well, after it opened following a 2-week break. The CSE closed the market, citing the investors needed a cooling-off period. However, some investors were not in favor of the decision. In the meantime, one of the rating agencies, Standards & Poor's, said it had cut Sri Lanka's sovereign rating to selective default. The rating agency said that individual securities were downgraded to default of D, and Sri Lanka has 30 days to make payment on another coupon which fell due on the 8th of April. Sri Lanka has 30 days to make payment on another coupon which fell due on the 18th of April. Standard & Poor's said that they do not expect the government to make coupon payments within 30 calendar days of their due dates. Stay tuned for stock updates.
Meet your work and learn targets. Get 30 GB Meet Lite for just 195 rupees and 100 GB Meet Max for 490 rupees. Log on to my SLT app to activate. SLT Mobitel.
Trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a negative note today. The All-Share Price Index dropped 608.48 points to close at 6,905.37, and the S&P SL20 dropped 229.58 points to close at 2,125.96. The turnover was 8 billion rupees and over 91 million shares were traded. Up next are Forex rates. And that's all news for today. See you tomorrow at State of Business at the usual time. Until then, take care and good night.
UHD quality video streaming. Internet like a boss. SLT Mobitel Fiber.
State of Business was sponsored by
UHD quality video streaming. Internet like a boss. SLT Mobitel Fiber.